The following programming is sponsored by Marc J. Bernstein. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Entrepreneur, founder, author, and financial advisor Marc Bernstein helps high-performing business owners turn their visions into reality. Through his innovative work and the Forward Focus Forums, Marc connects entrepreneurs to resources that fuel their success. Founders Forum is a radio show and podcast where entrepreneurs share their journeys, revealing the lessons they've learned and the stories behind their success. Join Marc and his guests for a mix of inspiration, valuable insights, and a little fun. Now, let's dive in.
Good morning, America. How are you? And when I say this every time I open a show, and I've told the story about it. It's partly not because of Good Morning Vietnam, which was a movie, or not because of some other things you've heard, but it's because of Good Morning, America. How are you? The City of New Orleans, a song by Arlo Guthrie. My dog's name happens to be Arlo, after Arlo Guthrie, and so I say, good morning, America, good morning, Arlo. It's just a thing I do. But when I say good morning, America, I really mean it, because not everyone in America is having a good day. And that's not meant to be a political statement, but that's just the way it is. And it had me thinking, because I was reading this morning about the upcoming, and we're in the city of Philadelphia, the birthplace of the nation, which I think is going to be more or less the center of the big celebration next year, which is the Quincentennial. Thank you, Jim. And we got to get used to that word. And it's going to be a big celebration, yet there's a lot of things going on. At the same time I was reading about that, I was reading about just a couple other things that caught me in the news. You know, they're big subjects right now. And I was thinking about the founding of our nation. So Jim, I'm going to introduce you to in a minute, and I know each other a long time, but we are also both members of the Union League of Philadelphia. And so I'm happy to give the Union League a little plug. I was, and I think I've told you this, Jim, 40 years ago, I went in the Union League, and I'm never joining this place because because I had this image of, it was actually, the building was used in the moving trading places. It wasn't?
No.
The outside wasn't?
No.
Well, he's a historian, and he's a docent there at the...
Right, it's the Fidelity Building.
It was the Fidelity Building. Okay. Anyway, so the rumor was that. But anyway, I presented that image of stodgy old white men, playing games and all that. Mm-hmm. And that's literally what I thought it was. Turns out it's something totally different than that, especially, and it's really about the principles of Abraham Lincoln and, love of country first. And... I really do love this country. I feel so fortunate to have been born here and all that, but I worry about it. And the articles that I read this morning have to do with worrying about how government and business, both of which I'm a big believer in, how they're intersecting and not always for the better. And the two articles were one about this firing of the Late Show host of CBS, Stephen Colbert, and they say it's because of cost issues, but he turned it into, he made some comments about it, and it might be politically driven. The president certainly had threatened or had asked CBS to fire him. And when they talked about the cost savings, he says, yeah, well, $16 million of that, was from paying him off in a lawsuit. So you got all that going on. And the other thing was an article about Elon Musk, who was very politically active for the last year, who I happen to be a big admirer of in terms of his, his genius and his creation of SpaceX and Tesla and all the things he's done. But he wants to create the American Party, a third party in America, which I think is a noble ideal. But we've seen a lot of changes in him politically over a short period of the last few years. It's hard to know what that really is about. So the question really is, without getting political, we try to avoid politics and religion on the show, but what do you guys think about this whole government versus business thing and where it is and what needs to happen? So Branden, I'll start with you. So this is Branden Moyer, who was on our last show of Made to Be Clean and Buzz Brands, and your thoughts, and then we'll go to Jim and I'll introduce Jim.
Yeah, I definitely think there needs to be a relationship between both, because both of them, they're not going away anytime soon, all right? It's what drives our society. It's what builds our country. And I think they do checks and balances on each other. And it's super, super important to, just like church and state, that there is a fine line. But we need to respect both parts, that there is a place in our society for them, and we need to call them out when I think there's overreach as well. And it definitely looks political or it looks business motivated, and they need to be called out. And I think public opinion, always has an opinion, so and that carries a deep weight in our society. So
that's the good thing about democracy.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, and social media, that is sort of the way our society can voice its opinion now, and we didn't have that, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So now that's changed, and because of technology like this, that our businesses, it forces politics to sort of evolve itself and sort of become its own business entity, if you will. Yep. So it's interesting. They both take a sort of mask of each other at some point in their evolution.
Well said. Jim, your thoughts?
I definitely think there needs to be a balance, because if you let corporate greed, which has happened in the past and continues to happen, to get out of control, it'll be all about the money and not about for the good of the United States and the people, etc. But I also think that government can be very effective in growing, especially manufacturing. My company is a manufacturing company. For instance, national defense is an issue. The government could really be promoting that chips need to be made here, that video screens need to be made here. And that would just boost and turn around manufacturing, but that would be a government role. Right. So I just think if government is not vindictive, if government is positive, trying to make things work, I think it's a good thing.
Well said. That's certainly a subject we ought to be thinking about these days. So let me introduce Jim F. Logue Jr., James F. Logue Jr., Jim Logue. And Jim and I have known each other for many years, and we are also, as I mentioned, Union League members. And Jim is the president and CEO of ThermOmegaTech, Inc., which provides engineering, design, machining, assembly, and testing of specialty temperature control valves and related products. The company also has a division that populates and test printed print circuit boards primarily for aerospace and military industries. And ThermOmegaTech operates out of a 60,000 square foot facility located in Warminster, Pennsylvania. So welcome, Jim.
Thanks.
So, Jim, there's a lot I want to talk to you about, and we're going to try to get it all in. But first of all, you're not the traditional founder we have on the company.
Right.
What you were was somebody who bought a business but recreated it.
Yes.
So therefore, I think you qualify as a founder, and in fact, you've been honored for that recently. So let's tell the story, and we'll get to that piece of it.
So ThermOmegaTech was founded by a gentleman by the name of Fred Perkel. And he was an engineer and an inventor. I think he had 27 patents to his name. And he started this company and used specialty wax technology valves, which is his specialty. And he generally was I would call him a tinkerer. He loved hanging with our engineers. He loved hanging with our machinists. But he let his wife and his daughter and son-in-law run the business. And the wife decided to divorce Fred, and Fred's attorney brought me in to see if I could help Fred, who owned 80% of the company. Let's
stop right there because I want to back up about you first.
Sure.
Your background that led you to that, and then we'll pick up right there.
So I started my career as a CPA with Coopers & Lybrand, 4.5 years. And then I had a series of controllership and CFO positions. And then in 2000, I went into a consulting practice with another gentleman that you know.
Yep.
Basically working with small businesses for debt restructure, for turnaround, for family transition, things like that. And so that was why this attorney thought that I'm going to be able to help Fred. It turned out that the family wasn't interested in working in that arrangement, and we had to remove the family from the business, and I kind of got pulled into running the business, basically.
For Fred at that point.
For Fred. So that was January of 10, and by May of that year, Fred had approached me about making a career change and becoming the COO of the company.
Right. And so you did that.
I did that.
And my understanding is you were really running, micromanaging, as you mentioned.
Yeah, the company had a lot of good bones. There were wonderful things about the company. It had proprietary products. We design and build, but it had a lot of. It was not managed very well. It had too much reliance on one industry, which was diesel locomotive engine freeze protection. About 76% of revenues came from one source. And so diversification was an issue, and it just did not have a great culture.
Right.
And so I was at a point in my career which I felt that I really had the tools that I could really do something with this company. And Fred basically gave me the reins to do what I thought needed to be done, and I took advantage of it.
Right. So you saw the opportunity, you grabbed it, and enjoyed it. I know. And then what happened?
Well, so just to act on, or to be a little more about why I thought that I was ready for this, I kind of had developed what I now call the 4 pillars of ThermOmegaTech.
Right.
And basically, the very first pillar is the company needs to stay relevant. Okay, we need to be growing. We need to be knowing the markets. We need to be looking for opportunities. We cannot be stagnant. The second pillar is customer-centered. And I always tell my employees, or when I have the chance to say, always put yourself in the position of the person on the other side. What do you want to hear? Okay, there's a problem. There's something, picking up the phone, things like that. So being very customer-focused is there. The third pillar is employee engagement. I knew that I could not build the company the way I wanted to unless I had a culture where the employees were behind what we were trying to do. Why do we make the products we do? Do you understand that we serve a purpose here? And making sure that our employees were dedicated and appreciated was an underlying factor. And then the last pillar is a commitment to continuous improvement. So I was aware, I read a book, I've been to a couple of seminars on lean manufacturing, and I wanted to instill that into our company, which I did. And so putting those 4 pillars together kind of created the ideal company that I thought ThermOmegaTech should be. And so I started doing that.
We talked on the last show, our topic of the day had to do with strategy, actually, on the last show. And you were all about strategy.
Yes.
You were all about getting in the cave, stepping back, figuring out what needed to be done.
Yeah, and building culture. So lean manufacturing has, to my opinion, 2 factors. One is very tactical.
Right.
One
positioning
flow
of
processing.
everything. And,
Eliminate, there's like 7 different things, eliminating waste, da-da-da-da-da. But the other side of it is all culture.
Yeah.
Culture, getting people to buy in that are moving in the same direction. And so the chimneys don't exist. And getting that type of freedom for everybody to be engaged, you're just going to have a better company. And that was important to me.
Right. So once you developed that strategy, how long did that take?
That took years.
Yeah, I bet.
There was some employees didn't make it.
Right.
We were about 41 employees back in 2010. But once you get the small wins, I mean, Branden, once you get the small wins, the people start to trust, people start to build, and then it started to gain momentum.
I just want to point out, so you were 41 employees. Today you're
just under 150.
Almost 150. And you're, without going into the numbers, but you in 2009 to today, you're almost 4 times the revenues you were back then.
Yeah, we were just under 9 million in 10, and right now I think we're going to be around 35 million. Maybe we might hit 36. I don't know.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were just under, so I think you might make the 4 times. You know.
Oh, yeah, okay,
right?
okay, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so
Do some math.
Do
huh?
the math. There you
Math
go.
it.
Some quick math. Yeah. So, and also you are a diversified company today.
That was part of the staying relevant. You know, we were too centric on railroad, so now we're in 4 distinct industries: general industrial, freeze and scald protection valves. We're still in railroad. We've grown railroad. Okay,
Right,
we're in passenger car. Amtrak is a big customer of ours, but we invented a commercial plumbing product, which is a nice product, and patented. And I really wanted to grow in aerospace and defense, and we're nicely growing into those areas. So there's our diversification.
And we were talking before the show. You're literally in space now.
Yes, we have valves in space, and a lot more are going up.
Yeah. Sounds like a TV show, Valves in Space.
Yeah.
Right. So Jim, what in doing all of this?
Yes.
And I think I know the answer, but what kind of challenges? What would you say your greatest challenges were?
Always on the personnel side, I would say, were the biggest challenges. Getting good people, developing good people, being able to build a management base, a middle management that is effective. They're the type those things. So we have now. I mean, like our compliance department, our IT department, our quality control department. I mean, they were one person or no people back 15 years ago, and now we have just grown and grown and grown and made procurement. You know, everybody used to buy their own stuff way back in 2010. Now we've got 4 or 5 people in procurement. No, we have more than that because of electronics. And so it's just, you know, building that infrastructure and it never ends. It never ends.
With that, I think that's a great place to take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute on Founders Forum.
When temperatures swing, pipes burst, systems fail, and operations stop. That's downtime you can't afford. For over 40 years, ThermOmegaTech has been the trusted leader in self-actuating temperature control solutions, keeping critical systems running in railroad, aerospace, and defense, commercial plumbing, and industrial applications. No power, no wiring, just automatic protection when you need it most. Whether it's preventing freeze damage, stopping scalds, or keeping water perfectly balanced. Designed and built in Warminster, Pennsylvania, their thermally actuated valves are precision engineered for reliability, durability, and unmatched performance. Don't wait for the next emergency. Protect your systems today. Go to ThermOmegaTech.com. Your temperature solution to a temperature problem.
Okay.
We're back on Founders Forum with our guest today, Jim Logue, and we've got Branden Moyer in the studio. I wanted to ask you, and Branden may want to ask you a question, but before that, I wanted to ask you, we talk about challenges, and you had a lot of business experience coming into this, but you obviously have gained some strengths personally as a result of, you build muscles through, hardship and challenges. What kind of strengths would you say you've developed in order to lead the company into the future?
Yeah. So as we talked about the other day, is that I'm probably on the third morphosis of me as a manager with this company. When I started the first couple of years, I was an extreme micromanager. I mean, I ran the meetings. Well, there weren't any meetings before me, but we ran the meetings, took the notes, followed up with everybody, made sure things were getting done. Very micromanagement. Then I started the second metamorphosis was being able to build an executive team and lieutenants that I could get to really do a lot of these functions, and the third would be mid-management, growing that, and so more and more of me in the day-to-day is not a thing.
Right.
Right now, I would say strategic and personnel, and maybe the third thing, company cheerleader.
Right.
Would probably be what I do now, which is perfect for where I want to be, because in the next few years, I want to bow out of some more of the day-to-day and let my management team continue to run this company the way that we've built it.
And focus only on your unique abilities, which you've developed, which I think is the dream,
Yeah,
the goal of every
You
entrepreneur.
know, I've mentioned I was in public accounting for a while. I learned 2 skills there that have never left me.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one is time management.
Yep.
Okay, that because you know you're running one job during the day, you're closing the other job out, and you know you're studying for the CPA exam. You had the time management, but the other one was delegation. If you
Right.
didn't take the time to delegate and train, you'll never build a base. You'll never build that support that you need. You can't do it all by yourself.
Right.
And when we started hitting that, I would say maybe 14 million in revenue, I knew that I had to have other people doing things. And so that delegation really I brought into the company, and it's paid off.
I'm going to take a stab at something. I don't know if I'm right about this or not, but you were an accountant, you were a consultant primarily your whole career before you came in there. So obviously you had people skills. Obviously you knew how to delegate. But I would imagine that your ability to go a little deeper and build culture and that kind of thing has been a strength that you've built through this company, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, so you know, through my career, primarily in public accounting, but also when my consulting company was going on, I saw a lot of businesses. I also one of my big businesses, especially when the real estate crisis happened, was that banks would hire me to do turnaround management, and so I saw what good companies look like compared to companies. And so it wasn't hard to say, yeah, effective companies, these are the attributes.
Right.
And so I was able to learn the things not to do, learn the things that you really want to emphasize. And that's what I worked on. And that's kind of how I was at the right time when I knew what I wanted to do.
Brandon's going to ask a question, but the only thing I really want to say is that, but I think you're building your levels of leadership to do that. You had to basically sharpen your axe in terms of your people skills and your one-on-one and all that, which I think is not what you had
mentoring,
done as much in the past.
communication, making sure they understood vision.
Yep.
That's important.
So you were So you were developing some new skills or sharpening skills that you've had in the past.
Yeah, this is all new.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get at.
This is all new.
Gotcha, Brandon. You had.
Yeah. So where do you see artificial intelligence play a role within the next 3 to 5 years?
Great question.
Yeah, I embrace it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know everyone's scared that it's going to put people out of work, but I think so I'm using it now. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean our CNC machine. Okay, let me step back. Labor issues are our biggest challenge. Okay, finding assemblers, skilled operators, CNC machine operators, etc. That is a huge challenge for us. So what are we doing? We're still trying to hire them, but we're now getting our machines to operate without operators. Mm-hmm. And so we are, we call it lights out. Okay, we're operating, all of our CNC machines now operate lights out. Okay, and that was culture change because the machinist said, whoa, but you got to work with them and come around. But I could see so many ways that AI can help your business. I mean, on the hiring side, job descriptions, just makes you more efficient. There are skill sets like solderers for our electronics that more and more aren't going to be around and you're going to have to automate. Mm-hmm. So I think that you have to embrace it. I don't think, I've heard all these things about AI taking over. I think that's your choice if you want it to take over. Mm-hmm. But I think you need to bring it in, and I think we've already done that. Our space valves are using cobots, so I like it.
All right, nice, thank you.
Excellent. Jim, looking forward, which we love to do on the show, is if this is July of 2028 and you and I are talking, and I say, hey, how'd the last 3 years go in terms of your vision and in terms of what you're looking for, what would have to happen during that 3-year period for you to say that was a great, successful period for the business and personally, if you'd like?
Yeah, I would say 3 things. One is that the continued growth of the company. I mean, I always wanted to take the company to 50 million. And I just thought that would be a great swan song to do that. I think it's right in our wheelhouse in the next 3 years to do that. The second thing would be that I really want to, one of the areas where I really want to get better, or the company I want to work to get it better, is in employee development. You've heard of stay interviews, getting people to stay, because good people are going to be pilched. Yep. And getting people to say, no, I want to work here. I want to grow through the company. I have career, and this is going to build our leaders as we move forward. You have to constantly look at our aging managers and who's the bench, and so I want to get a better bench over the next 3 years. And then the third one is personal, is that I have no plans on selling the company, but I want to be able to. My definition of retirement is no personnel. I still want to be involved in the strategic side. I still want to be involved in the cheerleading side, which I love. But just get the company that I can step back. My wife and I love to travel. Just maybe move towards that. I'll be in my early 70s, so just moving into that would be my goal over the next 3 years.
Play a little more golf, maybe?
Maybe break 100.
Love that one. Cool. Well, let me ask you, speaking of which, you have some pretty interesting interests outside of work.
Okay.
Want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So I've always had a love of history. My father got me involved with that. And so at the Union League, I'm a docent. I give tours of the Union League. And
I've seen you at work there.
Yes, you see me at work. And I also am a certified Philadelphia tour guide. So I could do tours of the historic district. I do one of Washington Square, which I really like that one because that's such an interesting place. I know where the bodies are buried.
I want to talk to you about that. We're gonna be having a wedding in Philadelphia, and I thought a nice thing would be for all of us to go on some kind of tour when everyone's
that would be
in town.
Great. That would be great.
Love to talk to you about that. You'd be great.
And the price is right.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah, and the So being a tour guide is kind of a hobby for me.
Are you a reader?
Very much so.
And what are you reading, or what is your favorite book that you would recommend to people?
Well, believe it or not, I'm reading a book right now on the history of the transit system of Philadelphia.
Well, given your interest in history and your interest in trains,
in railroads, yes, and everything like that,
makes it also make sense.
Yeah, I generally do more history. I like historical fiction, as long as the history's right.
Excellent.
Yeah. So.
Hey, I think we're out of time. The music's running. But thanks for being here, Jim. Great show. Thank you, Branden, for being here. Thank you, TJ, Shane, everybody out there for engineering the show. See you next week on Founders Forum.
With you throughout your day. Join us again next week for another episode of Founders